What is up, guys? My name is Lex. Before we get started in this video, I have one good news thing to share with you guys and one bad news thing to share with you guys. Now, what do you want to hear first? The good news or the bad news? Well, I'll start here with the good news. The good news is that my poker channel, Lexo Poker, has finally reached 50,000 subscribers. 50,000 people watching, commenting, liking. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you for showing up every single week. You got me to 50,000 subscribers. It's been 2 years now since I've been making poker videos. Next stop, hopefully, is 100,000 subscribers. That's my next goal. Hopefully we can get there by maybe 2025. We'll see. But as for the bad news is that this month of February 2023 has been my worst poker month in my entire life. My entire career, I've never lost this amount of money in this short of time. From February 1st to February 19th, I was down $25,000 playing poker. $25,000 in 19 days of playing poker. The worst poker downswing I've ever been on. I was running bad, I was playing bad, I always had the second best hand, getting cooler, getting bad beat. Every time I made a hand, I would never end up getting the maximum. Things were just not going my way. But this video I'm about to share with you guys, I play some huge pots, some crazy hands, and I make a little bit back from that crazy $25,000 deficit. Well, hope you guys enjoy this one. Let's get started. Sitting down at the 5-10 table on a Monday night, I had no idea that I would end up playing huge, crazy pots. Well, I've got 5 hands for you guys I want to share. First one, I'm in the cutoff with 5-6 of diamonds, and I raise it up to $75. Big blind and the straddle makes a call. 3 ways to king 3-4 with 1 diamond. I flop an open-ended straight draw. When it checks to me, I feel like I should be betting here a lot of the time, but I can mix in some checks as well, and that's what I do. And the turn card's the deuce of diamonds, giving me the stone cold nuts. Big blind checks again. Straddle leads out for 175. Now, this particular player, I do have a decent amount of history with. He plays pretty face up against me. If I raise right now, he might fold out some of his King X hands. He's going to fold out all of his bluffing hands. So given the fact that I have such a strong hold on this hand, along with the straight flush draw, I put in the trap and make the call. River card, heads up now, it's a 7 of hearts. We still have the stone cold nuts, and my opponent now continues for a $425 bet. He's got about $3,000 behind, and obviously we're going to be raising here. Now, I think it's possible he could be bluffing, given the fact that I checked back on the flop. He can have some 2 pairs. He can also have some sets as well. I'm not going to be bluffing very often here in this situation, so when I raise, I want to raise big. I want to try to get max value from his 2 pairs and his sets, so I bump it up here with the nuts to $1,575. Right when I make this raise, my opponent actually raises one of his eyebrows and looks confused, but then he starts thinking. Now, this is great, obviously. If he was bluffing, he would just snap fold there once I raise, but he's thinking it over. He's looking down at his chips. I'm expecting him to call or fold, but that does not happen. After a minute and a half, my opponent jams all in for his last $3,000. Now, immediately when I see this, I think to myself, fuck. That means we must be chopping. There's no way he's ever 3-bet jamming this river without 5-6 with the nuts. Of course, I make the snap call, and I get shown ace-5 suited for a straight, but not as good as our straight. Holy crap, our first hand here, a massive cooler. First nuts versus second nuts to win over a $7,000 pot. An amazing way to start a session, up over $3,000. Next up here, the cutoff makes it 60. Button calls 60. Small blind calls 60. I peel back queen jack suited in the big blind. Decide to 3-bet squeeze here. All this dead money versus a late position open and a couple flat calls. I make it $375, hoping to just take all this dead money down pre-flop. Well, my plan is destroyed when the straddle makes the cold call right away for $375. The cutoff calls $375. Button calls and the small blind calls. So we go 5 ways here in a massive $1,800 plus pot. But I flop top pair on queen 8-3-2 spades. Now, given the fact nobody 4-bet pre-flop, I don't think anyone's going to have pocket aces or pocket kings. We probably have the best hand here a lot of the time. Shouldn't be many 2 pairs on this board, so I lead out for a $500 bet. Straddle folds, cutoff folds, but the button goes all in for $1,300. Small blind folds, now the action's back over on me. It's not much more for me to call. He could be doing this with a weaker queen, a flush draw, a gut shot straight draw. If he's got me beat, I cannot fold for this price, so I make the call. We decide to run out the board one time, and the turn card's the 5 of hearts. Looks pretty safe to me. And the river card is the ace of spades, bringing in the flush, and the button shows king 6 of spades for the nuts on the river. We started off good, up a lot of money on this session, and just like that, we end up losing over $1,700 worth of our profit here in this one hand. Try not to get too tilted about the outcome in this hand. Moving on to the next one where the button races to 100, who's an action player. I 3-bet in the small blind with jacks to $400, and the button makes a call. Heads up, out of position in a 3-bet pot, which comes out 9-7 deuce rainbow. Now, usually I would always be c-betting on this board, but versus this particular player who is prone to put out some big bluffs, I think sometimes I could check and try to give him a little bit of rope. So I check over to him, but he instantly checks back. Turn card, 8 of spades, now bringing in a flush draw, also giving me a gut shot straight draw, and a 10 will give me a straight. I now bet $350, and the button makes a very quick call. River card, 3 of hearts. Now, I do feel like a lot of the time, he's not going to have too strong of a hand once he checks back the flop and just calls the turn. Think he can have some missed flush draws, some missed straight draws, so I give him some rope again and check over to him. And the button bets $1,300. I take a second just to think about it, and I think to myself, well, there's just no way I'm ever folding an overpair on this particular board. If he's got 2-pair, set, straight, I guess he's going to take my money, so I pretty quickly make the call for $1,300. And the button shows ace 5 of spades for a missed straight draw and flush draw for ace high, and jacks are good. Nice to get all that money back that we lost with queen jack right away with pocket jacks. Moving on here, there's an early position raise I call in the strata with 6s, and we go heads up to a 7-6 deuce flop. Flopping middle set, I check, and the initial raiser bets at $100. Now this particular player is the same guy who I stacked earlier on with the straight versus the second nut straight. Now he's down a couple $1,000. He may be a little steamed up. I want to allow him to continue to bluff if he is bluffing on this particular board. I don't want him to hero fold over pairs to me if I check raise, so I decide to just call. Turn card 7 of hearts, and now my plan has changed. If I check to him, I feel like he's going to check back with all of his bluffs, and he might check back with some over pairs as well. But if I lead out here, he can call me with a wide range of hands. I can have more 7s than he will, given the fact that he raised from early position. I could also be leading out here on this turn card with bluffs like 8-9, flush draws, straight draws, also hands like 6x or pocket 5s for protection. So I lead out here when I do have it for $175. My opponent ends up making a pretty quick call, and the river card is the 10 of clubs. Now an interesting spot here. I have a full house, 6s full of 7s. The flush gets there on the river. I feel like a lot of the time he will have a flush. He can also have an overpair here like aces, kings, and queens. If I check to him, I feel like he'll go for thin value with those big overpairs. I also feel like he's going to bet if he does have a flush, and then I can maybe check raise big. So I decide to get trappy, really tricky here, and check over my full house to him. Also by checking here, it can allow him to potentially turn some hands into bluffs that maybe missed here on the river, possibly turning a pair into a bluff. Like I said, this guy was kind of steamed up after losing a big pot to me. Well, I checked to him, and very quickly he bets $1,200. What the heck? I was not expecting this big of a bet. The pot's only $700, and he's betting $1,200 here on the river. Well, I was going to check raise, but versus this sizing, I mean, I don't really think I can. I have one of the worst full houses. I do lose to other hands like quad 7, 7, 10, 8, 9 of clubs is a straight flush. Pocket 10s is a bigger full house. So versus this huge sizing versus the size of the pot, I decided to just call, and it doesn't really matter because my opponent shows a bluff with ace jack with the ace of clubs. So he used that ace of clubs as a bluff blocker here for the nut flush, trying to get me off maybe a 7 or a 6. Not going to work this time versus a full house, and we end up taking down another huge pot. We are up huge now on this session. Running hot, and it continues when I raise to $100 over a limp with 9-10 of spades. The limper calls heads up in position to ace 8-3, all spades flopping a flush. He checks. I bet small on this monotone board, heads up, only $65. My opponent check calls. Turn card 10 of hearts. He checks again. I ramp up my sizing now to $350, and he makes the call again. Going to the river here with the 10 high flush, and it's the queen of diamonds. If we were ahead on the flop and the turn, this river card doesn't change anything at all. It's definitely possible he could have some 2 pairs. He can also have some hands like pocket 8s or pocket 3s. He could still have some ace X holdings as well. I contemplate betting huge here on the river, but I feel like just a medium-sized bet will be fine. I want to get called in this spot. I don't want him to hero fold a top pair holding versus me, so I throw out a purple $500 chip. After about a minute of thinking, my opponent calls. I show the flush, and it is good. And this ends up being the last hand of this crazy monster session. I bought in. I won almost every single hand I played for a huge win of over $10,000. I was down $25,000 before this session. And now, after this huge win, we got a little bit back. I decide to end up racking up my chips, heading to the cage, and cashing out for the night. Wow, what a session. Much needed. I'm not going to lie with you guys. I needed this win so bad. $10,000 worth of profit. Also my biggest ever 5-10 win. I've never won $10,000 before in a single 5-10 session. I needed this so bad. I mean, my confidence level leading into this session was just at an all-time low. I was on a $25,000 downswing, the most money I've ever lost in that short amount of time. Only 20 days and I lost $25,000. Everything I was doing was not working. My bluffs weren't working. Every time I made a hand, someone had a better hand. Every time I got jacks, they had queens. Every time I flopped a set, they had a straight. I mean, it was just disgusting. I wasn't running well. I wasn't really playing well either, and it was just terrible. And I started to think to myself, do I want to keep playing 5-10? I mean, lately, the games haven't been too great here at the Hard Rock at 5-10. It's been a lot of Euro players who are coming over here for 2 months, for 3 months, and they're playing long hours, and they're very good at poker. So I'm grinding every day against a lot of these regs who are here. They know what they're doing. They're not loose money, and they're just trying to take. Well, that's hard to play poker against. Sometimes it's just me and a bunch of European pros. So do I go back down to 2-5? I mean, how terrible is it to lose 25K at 5-10 and go back down to 2-5 where you're sitting with $1,000? So I decided, look, don't give up. You're a winner in this game. You know you can do it. Just try to keep pushing. You'll start to run better eventually, and thank God today was that day. I mean, everything went well. I ran well. I got paid off. People bluffed into me. I called, and I won $10,000. It's just so much needed. However, we're still down $15,000 on the month, but I don't know. This just helped my confidence level. This helped me kind of relax a little bit. I mean, mentally, it was very, very difficult. I was going in every day and just losing. I mean, it's just really tough to lose $7,000, come back the next day and lose $3,000, come back the next day and lose $4,000, come back the next day and lose $1,000. Just boom, 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 boom. That's how my entire month has been. So this is much needed. This helps me relax a little bit. I played 7 days straight before this as well, so I'm going to take a day off tomorrow. Not going to play poker, just going to relax, work out, chill with my dog. And yeah, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Until next time, I'll see ya.